Trees don't feel. That's what we've been told. It's wrong. When an insect takes its very first bite from a leaf, within the next few minutes, that tree does something science has long hesitated to call behavior. It responds, deliberately, rapidly, and in a way that warns other trees hundreds of meters away. This is not a simple reflex. It is something else. First, let's understand what an attack looks like. An insect lands on a leaf. Its jaws break through the leaf surface. That moment, that first bite, is for a tree something like a needle-piercing skin. But a tree does not feel pain. It has no brain. It has no option to run. So what does it do? It fights back, but not in the way you might imagine. Within seconds of the leaf being damaged, a chemical signal begins racing through the tree's cells. The signal spreads like electrical waves, from branches to trunk, from trunk to roots. The entire tree becomes aware of that single bite, and then it begins to respond. The tree starts releasing tannins and phenolic compounds into its leaves. These chemicals make the leaves bitter, not poisonous, but unpleasant enough that most insects stop feeding. The taste of the leaf changes within minutes. But that's only the beginning. In the 1980s, University of Washington researcher David Rhodes observed something that almost nobody believed. He found that when a willow tree was attacked by insects, nearby willow trees, even those that had never been touched, began increasing defensive chemicals in their leaves. In advance, before the attack reached them, the scientific community dismissed the idea. It seemed impossible. Trees do not have nervous systems. They cannot talk to one another, and yet the data remained. Over the following decade, researchers tried to understand how this could be happening. What they discovered was even stranger than Rhodes's original claim. When a tree is attacked, it releases chemicals into the air. These are called volatile organic compounds. They are invisible. They carry no scent that humans can easily recognize, but nearby trees detect them. They receive these chemical signals and activate their own defense systems. It is a language carried by the wind, and it is more than a warning. It is information. In 2006, a study published in the journal Science showed that corn plants, when attacked by caterpillars, release a specific chemical that attracts parasitic wasps that lay their eggs inside those same caterpillars. The plant is not merely defending itself. It is calling for help. It is summoning the enemy of its enemy. That is strategy. But now comes the real question. If all of this happens through the air, what happens when there is no wind? What happens when trees are too far apart? What about trees deep within dense forests, where airborne chemical signals cannot easily travel? The answer lies underground. In 1997, University of British Columbia researcher Suzanne Samar published findings that changed forest science forever. She discovered that forest trees are connected through an enormous underground network. This network is formed by fungi, mycorrhizal fungi, which connect to tree roots and create a web extending throughout the forest. Some people called it the wood wide web. The name may sound playful. What happens through it is not. Samar showed that trees share sugars, water, and nutrients through this network. A sick tree can receive nourishment from a healthy one. A dying tree can transfer its stored resources to neighboring trees before it dies. But more recent research has pushed the question even further. Can this network also transmit warnings? In 2023, researchers at the University of Florence conducted a controlled experiment using tomato plants connected through mycorrhizal networks. They exposed one plant to insect attack. Other plants, which had never been touched, activated their defensive chemical systems. When researchers severed the fungal connections between the plants, the response disappeared. The message had been traveling through the network itself. And here, a difficult question emerges. If trees send signals through the air, if they share information underground, if they recognize danger and alter their behavior accordingly, what should we call that? It is not consciousness. Scientists are careful about that distinction, but calling it just chemistry begins to feel incomplete. Because when you look at what is actually happening, an organism detects danger, converts it into a signal, transmits that signal to others, and those others change their behavior based on the information received. You're looking at system. A coordinated response. There is no movement, No voice, no face, but there is information, and that information is moving from one place to another. Research has revealed something even more unsettling. Trees appear to distinguish between different kinds of attackers. When a deer feeds on a tree's leaves, the tree releases one set of chemicals. When an insect feeds on it, a different set. When a human breaks a leaf, different signals again. In 2014, research from the University of Missouri showed that Arabidopsis plants began producing defensive chemicals when recordings of caterpillars chewing were played to them, even though there was no physical contact. When recordings of ordinary wind were played at the same intensity, no such response occurred. The plant distinguished between them. It recognized which sound represented danger. That is sensitivity to sound. That is the ability to discriminate. Now, pause for a moment. Imagine walking through a forest. Beneath your feet lies a vast network connecting millions of trees. Above you, invisible signals drift through the air. Every tree attacked today may still be broadcasting information about that attack. And its neighbors, trees that saw nothing and experienced nothing, are already preparing themselves. The forest is not silent. It is simply speaking in a language we cannot hear. Samard's work revealed something else that deepens the picture even further. Within a forest, there are certain trees often called mother trees. These are the oldest and largest trees. Their roots run deepest. Their mycorrhizal connections are the most extensive. And when these trees are removed, the younger trees around them become weaker. They become more vulnerable to disease. Their defensive capabilities decline because the oldest tree, the most connected one, the one linked to everything around it, is gone. And with its loss, the entire network becomes weaker. Here is the question science has not yet fully answered. If a tree detects danger, sends information, prepares others, and leaves an entire system weaker when it disappears, is that merely chemistry? Or is it something more? Scientists deliberately avoid that conclusion because consciousness is already difficult enough to define. Applying it to a tree, to an organism with no nervous system and no brain, pushes science towards limits. But the data says this. Trees recognize threats. They classify them. They respond accordingly. They transmit those responses to others. And those others alter their behavior based on the information they receive. All of this is happening in an organism that cannot walk away, cannot run, and cannot cry out. What it does possess is time, and it uses every bit of it. The next time you pass a tree, touch a leaf, snap a twig, pause for a moment. That tree may already know you were there, and now it may be passing that information along. Science can explain how this happens. It can identify the chemicals, the signals, and the networks involved. What science cannot yet tell us is whether there is something more behind it all. When a dying tree sends its final resources into the network before it disappears, is it merely releasing chemicals? Or is it remembering something? The trees will not answer.